Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Yamo ASAP, and today I'll be explaining to you why I believe that Helldivers 2 does not deserve Game of the Year. Helldivers 2 is a game that got lucky. The game had little to no marketing. The first game was so obscure that some people didn't even know that there was a Helldivers 1. Helldivers 2 got most of its popularity through word of mouth and action-packed clips from social media. It was Sony's fastest selling game of all time, garnering over 12 million copies in 3 months. Had a player peak of 500,000 concurrent players on Steam alone. This game was destined to win Game of the Year. Within a few months, the honeymoon phase ends. The game goes through some unwanted changes. The players are getting tired of this game, and now it's not nominated for Game of the Year. So, what happened? Before I answer that question, I want to first state that by no means am I fully aware of everything that is going on behind the scenes in Arrowhead, and everything that will be stated is all observations that I've made, and the feelings that I have towards this game are all from my experience from this game. That means if I say something the majority may not agree with, remember that this video is from my perspective alone, and that very well may differ from your own perspective. And that's okay. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, because I want to know what your experiences were like with the game and all of its changes, good and bad. If you heard something that you disagree with, let me know why. So without further ado, here's why Helldivers 2 doesn't deserve Game of the Year. Number 1. Slow releases and lack of content. Helldivers 2 was released on February 8th of this year, which was 9 months ago at the time of this recording, which is almost a full calendar year. With all that time, we've only had 10 new stratagems, 2 of which are only acquired behind a paywall, 7 new war bonds, 20 new primary guns, most of which are horrible to use, 3 new enemy types, and I'm not counting enemy variants like the 2 Hulks that we have because they're the same enemy just with a different gun. Similar to the Charger and the Charger Behemoth, Spore Charger, they're all Chargers, they do the same exact thing. We have also had 1 new biome, no new enemy factions, and a minuscule amount of new objective types. I don't know the exact number, but it isn't much. And the rate of which the content drops is far and few between, with the exception of the war bonds, which releases once a month for now. But that cannot be said about the rest of the game. The last time we've seen a new enemy type on both sides was during the Escalation of Freedom update, which was the game's only major update. And that update was released 3.5 months ago, and we've only received 1 new enemy type in that update, and that was the Impaler. We've had no new enemy type since that update. Before you start typing in the comments about having more enemies in the game doesn't make the game better, I'm only using this as an example of the game lacking content. The other features of the game had content releases more frequently, then this entry would not be in this list, and I would not have used the enemies as an example. But I believe that they are the key example of how much content we are getting. Just apply what I said about the enemies to anything else in the game, and it'll have the same exact outcome. Except for the war bonds, of course, because we get that every month. The lack of content in the game makes the overall repetitive nature of the gameplay start to feel stale and boring to some players. And the currently active players, like myself, are not being treated with new things to use and play with. Number 2. Poor judgment of game developers. Now, this section wasn't going to be nearly as long as the last one, because this entire video pretty much sums up some of the poor decisions Arrowhead has made for Helldivers 2. Every time Arrowhead makes poor choices with the game, the players voice their opinions, and some stop playing entirely, and rightfully so. The devs end up releasing a statement and apologizing to the players, and attempts to make changes that try to undo the harm they inflicted on the game, which could be good in some cases, but in this case, it happens way too often that players, including myself, are sick of hearing excuses and want the devs to have good judgment and release content that would benefit the players. Instead, the developers decide to release half-baked content that benefits absolutely no one. The best example I can use for this is the entirety of the DSS arc. The DSS, which stands for the Democracy Space Station, is a separate menu on the Galactic War Table that players would use to vote on where the space station will be docked to aid Helldivers in the war. Players are to contribute their samples and requisitions to activate certain abilities DSS can do. The first 2 days of this game feature was horrible. On day 1, the only thing we could do was contribute resources and vote on where it can go. The main feature of aiding us on missions wasn't even there. And on day 2 of the DSS was far from aiding players. Matter of fact, it was straight up killing us. And I mean literally. It was literally killing the Helldivers.
And they gotta collect hella samples now since there's a separate use for them. I don't know how I feel about that yet. This is the stupidest shit they ever added, bro.
And to sum this all up, this thing took a month and a half to make, with every single major order being a tease to the player on the construction of the DSS. During this entire arc, we have had no new objective types, and this arc is a follow-up of the Meridia arc, which set a standard on major orders and events. The poor choices of Arrowhead even spawned a new faction within the Helldivers' unofficial lore. This faction is known as the Chaos Divers. People are willing to find ways they can keep playing this game to keep it alive. And they do this because of the poor choices this team has made. Make it make sense. Number 3. Nerfs and changes that make the game less fun. A few months ago, Arrowhead released a new warband that was focused entirely on fire. Just to nerf fire damage that the player deals significantly. Like, what sense did this make? I get they buffed fire damage now, but the damage is already done, and the Helldivers themselves feel like walking pencils. We get killed by small enemies so easily now, it is insane. The rate of which Helldivers die now compared to that of launch is drastic, and most of the armor passives suck. For example, the inflammable armor passive. This sucks because although it provides 75% fire resistance, we still take fire damage, and base fire damage is insane. If you are caught on fire, you have at max 3 seconds to dive. If you do not dive, consider yourself dead. Fire damage will kill you that fast, especially if you're wearing light armor. Make it to where the armor is actually worth wearing, and give the player full fire reduction, and apply that to the rest of the armor passives, so it feels like there's more viable options for armor passives instead of just Democracy Protects or extra padding. And another thing is, every time we get a significant buff, the enemies also get buffs to accommodate our buffs, which makes it feel as if we have made no significant increase in power. One of the biggest examples I can use for this is the Jet Brigade. Right after the Helldivers got their major upgrade to the jetpack, the automatons just make a new legion of jetpack troopers. The enemies now have a pseudo COD zombies effect, where they act like magnets to players and always end up patrolling towards player objectives, giving the players little to no time to resupply without being attacked by an armada. This was not the case before, and I'm not even going to get started on ragdolling.
Alright, on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Take that shit, nigga. Fuck! What the?
Number 4. Major orders and plot have been stale. In the first few months of the game, the major orders felt like they would all make significant changes to the game. But ever since the Malevenon Creek arc, the fall of the Automaton Legion, most players felt like their choices didn't matter to the plot anymore. This is because there was a major order where Helldivers were ordered to fully eradicate the robots off the face of the map. This is a very hype moment for the game. Players were excited to see the outcome of this major change in the game. We succeeded in defeating the robots, and the community was celebrating with videos, fan arts, and social media posts, just for the bots to return the next day, which ended up being a disappointment, not to all, but to many people who felt like they were betrayed by Arrowhead. Now, this isn't the sole reason why major orders don't feel important to most players, because some of them are still fun to play. Refer to the Meridia arc in the Dark Fluid missions. The other main factor is the plot feels like it's not going anywhere, at least at the moment. This is because the devs are focused on fixing problems they made with the game instead of pushing the game's plot. It would be nice to see some new story developments or new cutscenes, but in recent times, we have gotten nothing good in the DSS arc. The devs are still working on fixes instead of the plot. Number 5. The game feels like it isn't in the player's best interest. With the many hours I've spent playing this game, I feel like there isn't much left for me to do in this game except for finishing war bonds. All the stratagems can be acquired at level 25. I am level 87 right now. Final tier upgrades for the Super Destroyer kind of seem useless to me, and you don't get anything from leveling up in the game except for a player title. I have every single war bond, and the items that I wanted to get out of them are already acquired for me. There is little to no customization in the game. Liberty Day was mid. The DSS was a shot in the foot to many players, and there is just no incentive to play, except for the occasional good major order. Long-term players are essentially keeping this game alive, and we receive nothing good for it. It really feels like the devs just don't care for this game, like many are led to believe. But that's just my take. Does all this mean I'll stop playing the game? As of right now, it doesn't seem like it. I still have lots of fun with this game and its many flaws. But to me, this is my game of the year. No game has came out this year that has matched the amount of fun that I've had with a PvE game. Not even Black Ops 6 Zombies. I am a sucker for zombies. I still find the missions to be very engaging, and using overpowered weapons against overwhelming odds is extremely satisfying to overcome, even though the weapons are far from overpowered. Remember to let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like what I said or not? If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and hit that subscribe button. But this is Yamo ASAP signing out saying, hope you guys have a good day. Peace.